The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking.
Let's try this again.
They can hear us this time.
Oh, they can hear us now?
Thanks, Windows.
So I can't say stuff?
I love Windows.
It's too bad I was throwing digs left and right in the first one.
Dang it.
That's right, I'll work up to it again. It just won't be as much fun because it's much more fun when it's spontaneous.
I know.
On my fake podcast. No, not fake podcast. My illegal podcast.
Illegal podcast?
My illegal podcast.
This is illegal?
Yes, the Valley Patriot is illegal.
Oh. This is news to me.
Did we share this? Is this out? Is it good? Where are we here? Oh my goodness. All right, we're up and live. That's good. It's always a good sign. I guess Melvin's feeling a little better. I saw him doing a gig the other night. I wasn't there, but I saw online that he was doing a gig. So I did see him like about 6 years ago. It was the last time I saw Mel. And so he always takes requests from the audience. He loves to do that.
Yeah.
So I yelled the Paying Attention song, and he looked right at me. He goes, I would have to relearn that. Because he wrote it for the show, put it on his record, and then he's never played it since. Like, he's never played it out. He says he hates the song.
Oh.
Little does he know that all of my viewers, all of my listeners on Podbean and Spreaker and iHeartRadio and all that hear him every single week. Everybody. Although I have to admit, the song at the end of the show, I like a lot more. The Worthen, I think, is probably my favorite song by him ever, which is why I picked it for the end of the show. That's why I go over sometimes so you play it twice. All right, let's get this show on the road, shall we? Hi, how you guys doing? My name's Tom Dutton here at the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi atop Two Guys Smoke Shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Got a pretty good show for you today. You know, sometimes I say that. I'm a little over-exaggerating. It's not really that good of a show. Sometimes I say it's only going to be an okay show, and it's a much better show. Today you're probably going to get your money's worth. Who knows? We'll see by the end of the show. A lot of times I come in, Chrissy, and I'll leave the show thinking that was horrible. And then I'll watch the rebroadcast. Like, I'll get home and I'll pull it up on the widescreen, and I'll rewatch it, and I'll go, actually, that was actually a pretty good show. I walked away thinking that was a crappy show. Then there are times when I leave it going, that was the best show we've ever done. And then I watch the rebroadcast and go, holy shit, that sucked. So you just never know. Like, when you're the guy doing it, you think when you're doing it, it's good. It's kind of like if you play baseball or basketball, you think you're having a good game, then you go back and you watch, you see all the mistakes that you made, and you realize it wasn't really that great of a game for you anyway. So anyways, we'll see what goes. We'll see what happens. That's the beauty of live, right? That's the beauty of live radio, live podcasts. So let's start with thanking our sponsors. We love our sponsors, and we have, I think, a couple more sponsors. Ever since the Hood Boogers started attacking me again, we've got at least 2 or 3 more sponsors coming on board. Let me just pull this. Where the hell are we here? All right, let's get this going. All right, here's our sponsors. Century 21 McLennan Real Estate, the Zanny Pescherino. It's only been 6 years since they started advertising.
Yeah,
eventually,
you get it right.
I will get it right. It's Jana Zanny Pesci, the sexiest woman alive, and her first husband, Vinny, own the Zanny Pesch Law Office. Marsan and Son Construction, EIS, Investigation and Gun Training. A free shout out to attorney Paul Lambert, my good friend Paul Lambert, who does wills and trusts and all kinds of stuff like that. Tomo and Shaken Seafood. Clear Path for Veterans New England. AFC Urgent Care. I want to thank Zaka from AFC Urgent Care. Made a $4,000 donation to our scholarships for this year's bash. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors. Harrison's Roast Beef. Prime Insurance, the Doug Mercurio Law Office. 11 Restaurant, a free shout out to them. Chris's Barbershop in Salem, New Hampshire, on Main Street, right above Sevmar. Enterprise Bank, which I guess soon is going to become Rockland Trust. It's not as much fun to say as Enterprise Bank, but okay. Listen, I spent all this time branding Enterprise Bank on the show, in the newspaper, on Facebook, and now they're changing the name. W3ON, Stadium Chiropractic, 4-star lighting, and a free shout-out to our buddies at Salvatore's Restaurant, Michael Agricola and Philip Wood. All right, so where do we go first? Couple things to get to. I want to say happy birthday to my friend Joe Solomon. I guess today is his birthday. Would have been nice if he told me. I didn't have to read about it on Facebook, but you know how he is. He doesn't tell you anything until it's a little too late. So happy birthday to my friend Joe Solomon. What else do we have? A couple of quick things. Everybody's talking about the plane crash today. I'm not talking about the plane crash because you can't put on any show today, anywhere on cable, anywhere on a regular station, unless it's like like TV Land or something, or Disney, without 24/7 wall-to-wall plane crash, so-called breaking news. And a couple of things I want to say about this. We're not going to spend any time on it, though. First of all, it's not breaking news if you've been reporting it for the last 12 hours, okay? And this is why people hate the mainstream media. The mainstream media, whether it's Fox News, whether it's CNN, they're all doing the same thing. They go to a commercial and they come back and they go, breaking news, a plane crashed last night. Well, you've been reporting that for the last 12 freaking hours. And even if you get a new detail and you go, breaking news, we have a new detail, like I got up and I didn't see it, but I was told that there was like a breaking news that I guess that there's a figure skating team that was on one of the planes, that was on the plane, a bunch of kids died. It is horrible. It is tragic. I'm not saying that it's not. What I am saying is, after they told you that at 7 o'clock this morning, at 12 noon when you put on CNN, it's no longer breaking news. Breaking news used to mean something. I grew up at a time when CNN was the only cable news outlet, and I remember when they came on and said, breaking news. The first time I can remember, might not be the first time they did it, but the first time I can remember it was breaking news. They were talking about news stories of the day, and they stopped and said, we've got some breaking news. Now, what that means is we just got something new, because new, N-E-W, are the first three letters in news. In order for something to be news, it has to be new. And they came out and they said, breaking news, someone shot Ronald Reagan. And within a few minutes, they actually had video footage of Hinckley shooting Ronald Reagan. That was breaking news. An hour later, CNN was not saying breaking news. In case you just joined us, Ronald Reagan's been shot. Because at that point, it wasn't new and it wasn't news. They were now giving you updates. And they'd say, we now have an update. Hinckley has been apprehended. Ronald Reagan's on his way to the hospital. And they would give you an update. Now, everything is breaking news. Everything. Even though they've been reporting it for 12 hours. Even if they give you a new detail, tonight, when you put on Fox News, do this little experiment if you don't believe me. At 8 o'clock tonight, put on Fox News and CNN, and you watch them start off with breaking news, a plane crashed last night. Breaking news, it was a figure skating team on the plane. So it's not breaking news anymore at that point. The other thing I want to leave you with this, and then I'm going to move on very quickly, is I'm always very skeptical when the government investigates plane crashes or plane tragedies, because they always seem, not always, not 100% of the time, don't be a petty tyrant and email me and say, not 100%, Tom, there's that one time in 1812. No, but the vast majority of the time, they eagerly try to blame pilot error, human error. Because if they do that, the insurance company doesn't have to pay out as much money. And the airline, whichever airline is actually responsible, because maybe it was faulty equipment, maybe it was somebody in the tower gave the wrong instruction, but they always try to blame the pilot. They always try to blame pilot error, human error, so that they don't have to reform whatever it was that actually caused the crash. And so and I want you to always be very skeptical. Whenever the news comes out and tells you that the government has determined, and the FAA is the government and the NTSB is the government, comes out and tells you something is pilot error, because we've seen numerous occasions over the last 30, 40 years where human error was blamed, and we find out from whistleblowers 10 years later that whether it's Lockheed Martin or one of these other airline companies actually had faulty equipment and they blamed the pilot so they could get out of the massive expense of dealing with the fact that if they reveal that it was their fault, it would cost them a lot more money. So I'm going to leave you with that. Where else do we have? What else do we have to go? So I want to talk a little bit now about... I thought a lot about this last night. I'm trying very hard to do this delicately. Because in Lawrence, emotions are running very high right now, at a fever pitch. Emotions in Lawrence right now are so high that people like Jalissa Nunez and others, we all know who they are, the Kellys and Debos of the world, are constantly on Facebook now every day, just throwing shit against the wall, just like making stuff up, throwing it against the wall about Brian DePina, the Lawrence City Council, the latest scandal, William Castro. All of these things are getting thrown against the wall, and it's whipping up emotion. Now, let me ask you guys something. Just a little test for you. Have you ever, just answer to yourself, if you're riding in your car, you're listening to this on your podcast, have you ever made a good decision out of emotion? Have you ever made a decision out of emotion and then went, wow, that was a really good decision? Maybe you have, but every decision I have ever made out of emotion has always been bad, always. And that's because that's the way the brain works. When you're acting emotionally, you're not thinking logically. You're not thinking through what you're doing. You're not thinking of the consequences of what you're doing. And it usually, almost all the time, turns out to be a bad decision. Now, the haters in Lawrence, and there's a small group of them, know this. They're smart people. They're clever. They're not book smart. They don't know anything about what conflict of interest means. But they do know that if they whip up emotion, if they take what looks like it could be a scandal, and they whip it up, and they attach a bunch of things to it that don't really belong to it, they make up a bunch of facts and add to it, and they whip people up on Facebook, and they whip people up on podcasts, it's going to get everybody emotional, and then they can manipulate you. It's one of the reasons why CNN at the beginning started calling Donald Trump a Nazi, to get you to react emotionally, to have a knee-jerk reaction, so that they can manipulate you to do what you normally wouldn't do if you were thinking logically. We have the same dynamic now going on in Lawrence. You have a small group of people who, for whatever reason, hate Brian DePina or hate William Castro, the now former acting chief in Lawrence, and they've taken a report which we went over in detail on this show last week. In detail. They've taken the first report, which was a bastardized report, because it was only one-sided. They never interviewed Castro. They added a bunch of lies to it, and they're now pushing out narratives that are not true in order to whip up hatred for Brian DePina. And why are they doing this? Because Brian's coming up for re-election this year. And there's going to be a couple of big names run against Brian this year. And at least one or two of the people that are going to be running against Brian this year already have the public support of the people whipping up all this hatred. We saw an NBC, believe it or not, an NBC Boston report this week that was, I'm not going to say that they're lying, because I think they're so lazy in the mainstream media in Boston. And far be it for me to criticize other journalists, but let's just face it, they suck at their job. Okay? So how the mainstream media works today, and take it from somebody who does this for a living, lives, breathes, eats, and sleeps the news. How the local news in Boston does their job. If I took a story, if I had a report, let's make something up just so that you'll understand. Let's say I've got a report about the DPW director in Drake doing something not exactly like, it's not a felony, it's not horrible, but it looks bad. And I take that report and I go out and I get a bunch of other information to add in, and I create a package of information that makes this guy look like he's the Antichrist. Like he's stealing money even though he's not, but it kind of looks bad because he did something that looked like he might have done it. And I package all this up and I hand it to Fox News Boston or NBC Boston. I've done all the homework for them. I've gotten a whole bunch of documents together and I give them a package. Now, the lazy reporters in Boston who've never done a minute of research in their life, people who just read teleprompters, will take that package and run with it. This is what happened with NBC Boston last week. They did a report on the William Castro situation, and again, I'm not going to say that they were lying because they don't know that they were lying. They just took what someone gave them. Can you pull me up just a little bit? I keep doing this. They take what people gave them and reported it as though it was fact. For example, one of the things in the report was Brian DePina tried to stop the investigation. Newsflash, for those of you at NBC Boston, Brian DePina is the one that commissioned the investigation. Hello? The only reason why we know any of this is because Brian DePina actually called for an investigation and paid for an investigation and hired an outside investigator. Here's what really happened. What really happened is he commissioned an investigation and found out that some of the Lawrence Superior officers were possibly unduly influencing the first investigation. So he called for a halt to that investigation and hired somebody else completely neutral. That's not what was reported. What was reported was Brian DePina, the evil mayor of Lawrence, tried to stop the investigation. He tried to cover it up. Now listen, Brian's not perfect. I come on this show and I disagree with Brian all the time. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I was all over Facebook humiliating the crap out of Brian over not opening a warming center for the homeless, which, by the way, Kelly Frazier tried to take credit for, believe it or not. So those who are on Facebook, like Julissa Nunez, who go and they whip up this sentiment and Tom Duggan just does whatever Brian DePina wants him to say. Go back and look at my page. Go back and look at my page of all the things that I've disagreed with Brian on and publicly said so, even on this show. But in this case, the evil Brian DePina who tried to stop an investigation, that's just a lie. It's a lie by the people who fed that to the NBC Boston, and a pox on the house of NBC Boston for not doing even 1 second of research. Because you know what? Had they done 1 second of research, and they simply just went to google.com, this newfangled search engine thing they've got, and typed in William Castro investigation, my story would have come up with the second investigation. And they would have read the second investigation and learned that no, Brian DePina did not try to stop an investigation or sweep everything under the rug or hide anything, but he called for a halt of the first investigation because he believed it was being tainted. Now, I know that when this show is over, people like Julissa Nunez, the badge bunny, is going to run all over Facebook and say, oh, Duggan's telling lies, he's attacking me personally, whatever. They're going to try and distract you from the action. She's going to go on and say he's defending Castro. This is not about defending Castro. I have never once defended Castro over the fact that he went on an illegal pursuit. In fact, it wasn't even illegal. It was just a violation of policy. But I've said from day one he shouldn't have done it. I said on this show he shouldn't have done it. I said it on Facebook he shouldn't have done it. And I said it in my report that he shouldn't have done it. So don't let them distract you with Tom Duggan's covering up because he's defending Castro. What I'm defending is the truth. That's what I'm defending. I'm defending the truth. Now, I have no stake in the game. I don't work for the city of Lawrence. I don't have relatives who work for the city of Lawrence. I don't live in the city of Lawrence. I'm not related to William Castro. Yes, Brian DePina is my friend, but again, there's ample information out there to prove that when he's wrong, I'm the first one to call him out because I think he's wrong. And it doesn't matter that the city of Lawrence buys ads in my paper, because at the same time that the city of Lawrence was buying ads in my paper, I was going after the DePina administration over Kelly Burchell Frazier trying to steer $200,000 in federal grant money to her own nonprofit. That was on the front page of the paper, that his homeless coordinator was illegally trying to steer $200,000 to her own nonprofit, which was a conflict of interest. And in that very same paper, there were full-page ads from the city of Lawrence. Does that sound like somebody who's just trying to make Brian DePina look good? Because if I was trying to make Brian DePina look good, that would not have been my front-page story. But it was, and not just once. So don't let them distract you. I'm going to leave you with this on this topic. And this is 100% true. Lawrence is the best-run city in the Merrimack Valley. You have the best city council of anywhere in the Merrimack Valley. That's Haverhill, that's Lowell. I'm going to include boards of selectmen in North Andover and in Dracut and in all of the other communities. The Lawrence City Council is the most professional, they're the smartest, and they're the most deliberative. They, for the most part, do not shoot from the hip. They are not out there for the most part. You've always got individuals that are an exception to the rule. But for the most part, the Lawrence City Council does everything humanly possible to serve the people of Lawrence. And by the way, even though they're at odds with Brian DePina, especially on this issue, Brian DePina is also one of the best leaders in the Merrimack Valley. I have not seen someone who cares about the city of Lawrence or cares about their community as much as Brian DePina in any other community. You might be able to say that about Jim Ferrantini 20 years ago when he was in his heyday. You might be able to make that comparison. But you look at Lowell and they're a nightmare. You look at Haverhill today and they're a nightmare. You look at the way North Andover is being run, it's a nightmare. And that's a lily white suburban town. And you look at their board of selectmen and they're a freaking nightmare. And then you go into Lawrence. I watch the Methuen City Council meetings and I throw paper at the TV screen the entire time. I'm kind of like a black guy in a theater. I'm interactive with my TV when I'm watching. I'm crumpling up papers. I'm throwing it at the screen. I'm yelling, "What the hell are you people doing?" Then I put on the Lawrence City Council, and I don't have to do that. Because even when I disagree, like Wendy Luzon and I agree probably on nothing. We're very good friends, but we don't agree on anything. But at least I know that she believes what she's saying is true. At least I know that she believes what she's doing is right for the city, even though I don't agree with her. The Lawrence City Council and the Lawrence Mayor, even though they're at odds, because you're always going to have that in any community, are the best people in the Merrimack Valley running their community right now. Lawrence is on the uptick. Lowell is on their way down. Haverhill is careening off a cliff. North Andover is putting in so much low-income housing and putting so much of a strain on the police department, the fire department, the DPW, the infrastructure, the pipes, the sewers, that North Andover is going to quickly become Methuen within the next 10 years. And I predict North Andover is going to become a city within the next 10 years. Lawrence, on the other hand, has gone from the very bottom. And they've been climbing for the last few years. Dan Rivera did a lot of good things for the city. But Brian DePina is paving like, I'm going to make up a number, but he's got to be paving like 10 roads a day in Lawrence. The parks that are being fixed, the schools that are being built. They're building a new police station. If you look at where Lawrence was today, if you drove around with a video camera 5 years ago and then did it today, it is a marketable difference. And yet, you'd never know it if you went on Facebook. You'd never know it if you listened to the malcontents who cry at city council meetings. And I don't necessarily mean the councils. I mean the people that get up at the podium. People get up at public participation. People talk at every hearing. Lawrence, for all of its faults, for all of the drugs, for all of the illegal aliens, for all of the crime, for all of the dirt, for all of the garbage, is still The best run city in the Merrimack Valley. Bar none. It's like not even close. You put Lawrence, I actually wrote an editorial, which I never get any credit for, but I wrote an editorial a year ago saying that Methuen should look at what Lawrence is doing if Methuen wants to do better. For all these people who call me a racist all the time, they always forget that stuff that I do. But this is not about me. I'm saying this because people who have a narrative in their head that something sucks, it doesn't matter how many times you say something positive, it's not going to change their mind. They're not even going to hear it. It's not that they hear what you say, they consider what you say, and they reject it. They just don't hear it. They block it out. And that's why you've got people on Facebook now trying to hurt my credibility. Because when I come out and I say these things like Lawrence, for all of its faults, is better run than Methuen, they don't want that narrative out there because they hate Brian DePena. They hate the guy at the top. It's an election year, and they want to whip up all this negativity, all this emotion, so you'll throw him the hell out of office. And again, for all his faults, Brian's doing a pretty good job. Yes, there are issues, for sure, in any administration. Certainly this one. He should have fired the homeless coordinator 3 years ago when she started with her shenanigans. He never should have put William Castro in as the acting police chief. And I like William Castro. We get along very well. But I think politically it was a bad move. And that has borne itself out to be a bad move. I think some of the people that he's hired around him, making Frank Bonet his chief of staff when he first got elected, was a huge mistake. Hiring that guy Marte was a huge mistake. But even with all those mistakes, drive around Lawrence today and ask yourself, did it look like this 5 years ago? There's a huge difference in the city. And partially that's because of Brian DePena, but also that's because of the Lawrence City Council. Because for the most part, they're all doing an exceptional job. You go to the Methuen City Council meetings, and they're attacking city employees by name at the table. They're revealing things that they're not supposed to be revealing. They're having illegal secret sessions, executive sessions. Everything's about who they hate. And you go to Lawrence, and they're talking about, like, trying to make the city better. And you can disagree with what they're doing to try to make the city better, but they actually believe what they're doing is to make the city better. I can't say that about a lot of Methuen City Councilors. Yes, there are some good Methuen City Councilors. Ronnie Marchand does a great job. Jana Zani-Pesci does a great job. But as a body, horrible. Now, they're trying. They're getting better. They finally got rid of their, they voted to not renew the city attorney, Samedi, I can't remember his name. But that's the guy that I sent in a public records request a year ago asking for the salaries of DPW workers. And I actually framed his letter. As an attorney, he actually sent me a letter saying that wasn't a public document. That the salaries of DPW workers is not public information. He literally put that in writing as an attorney. The guy should be disbarred. He literally put that in writing. So I'm glad that they're getting rid of him. I'm glad that they're looking with some of the new members to go in a different direction. But you watch those meetings, and then you watch Lawrence, and if you didn't know, if you were from another state, and you didn't know anything about Lawrence, and you didn't know anything about Methuen, and you watched the Methuen City Council meeting for 2 hours, then watched the Lawrence City Council meeting for 2 hours, it would be obvious that the Lawrence City Councilors comport themselves much better. They're more professional. They're more deliberative. They care about details. They don't just gloss over things because of who's proposing it. They don't just vote no because they don't like the person proposing it. I've seen Mark LaPlante swap his votes in the middle of a discussion because somebody comes up with a good idea that he was against, and then they give him more information, and he goes, well, you know what? Now that you've said that belays my objection. I'm going to vote yes on that. You see that all the time in Lawrence. There's one Lawrence City Councilor, I'm not going to embarrass them, but there's one city councilor that made a motion one night, and I burst out laughing because by the end of the discussion, they voted against their own motion. You never see that in other communities because in other communities, it's more about who they hate. In other communities, it's more about who they don't like and who they can humiliate and who they can make look bad. Which political side they're on determines how they vote. And in Lawrence, for the most part, you don't have that. So when you go on Facebook, when you watch podcasts about the city of Lawrence by people from Salem, New Hampshire, or other places that are not in Lawrence, and you hear people whipping up the hatred and taking an issue like William Castro, he violated a policy. It's not Watergate. And whipping it up and saying he should be in jail, he's this, he's that. What they're doing is they're taking something that looks bad but isn't really that bad. And they're trying to whip up emotions so that you will act emotionally so they can manipulate you and get you not to think logically. Now, I don't know if Brian's going to be able to win re-election with all this going on. But it's certainly, from what I'm being told now about who else is running, it's certainly going to be a very heated campaign. A very heated campaign. And I'm hoping that the people of Lawrence just dial it back a little bit. Step away from the Julissa Nunez's of the world. Step away from the other haters that we all know who we're talking about in Lawrence, and just start looking at the facts. And when they come out and they say, oh, Brian DePina tried to cover it up, don't just take their word for it. By the way, when you watch my podcast, don't just take my word for it. Look it up. It's one of the reasons why when I wrote the story about the report, I included the actual report. I put a link online to the actual report. So if you don't like the way I characterized what the report said, you can go read it for yourself and decide for yourself. These other people don't do that. They take portions of things and they post them so that you'll think what they want you to think. So anyways, that's the end of that, I guess. Let's do one quick thing. So we started raising money for our bash. The Valley Patriot holds its annual bash every year, in case you didn't know. And this bash has evolved quite a bit in 21 years. It's our 21st anniversary bash. We started off giving out a couple of awards to police officers and firefighters. We do it in March because that's when the Valley Patriot was first. Our first edition was March of 2004 was our first edition. And so March is our anniversary, but it's also the anniversary of when my dad was killed, Lawrence Police Officer Tom Duggan, Sr. And he was actually, his birthday was March 4th. So he was born, March 7th. He was born March 7th. And when he was beaten, it was March 13th. And when he died, it was March 16th. And we buried him on March 19th. And coincidentally, when we started the Valley Patriot, it was in March. So we decided one year to have a Valley Patriot anniversary party, which turned out to be quite the bash. We thought 20 people would show up. We had 300 people at the VFW in North Andover. So we moved it to the Relief Inn so we could accommodate the crowd the following year. And we've had a packed house ever since. We've had standing room only ever since. We started off giving out 2 awards to police officers in the name of my dad. We call it the Officer Tom Duggan Hero Police Officer Award. We've expanded it to be the Public Safety Award because once in a while, a firefighter does something really heroic and we want to give them an award too. We have expanded this now. We give out awards for police and fire, hero veterans. We have the Scott Clegg Public Service Award named after my good friend Scott Clegg. For people who help the homeless, help veterans, people out in the community. We have a First Amendment Award when people qualify, when somebody fights for the First Amendment. And we have a Lifetime Achievement Award. Last year we gave it to Leo LaMontagne from the Greater Lawrence Tech and Joe Bivalacqua from the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce. And the criteria for these awards are, we want to give awards to people, I'm never going to give an award to somebody that's gotten an award from the Exchange Club. Not because I don't like them, I love them. In fact, they come every year. We want to give awards to people who are underappreciated. People who do great things and their name never makes the list of nominations for the Rotary Club, the Exchange Club, or any of the other organizations in the community. Somewhere along the way, my friend Chris Eldridge called and said, hey, Tom, why don't you give a scholarship? I'm on the Lawrence High Alumni Board. Why don't you try and raise some money at your bash for a kid at Lawrence High to have a scholarship? And we raised $100 the first year. We thought we were changing the world. And the following year, I think we raised almost $1,000. We couldn't believe we had raised that much money for a kid's scholarship. This has grown so much that last year, at our 20th anniversary bash, we raised $58,100 and spread it out over 8 kids. We had 8 kids from 8 different schools, and we gave out a total of $58,000. Last week, because the bash is coming up, March 28th this year, we have a new venue. We're going to be at the Elks this year because they're tearing down the Relief's Inn. This is our first year, other than the very first year, this is our first year anywhere but the Relief's Inn. We've had it there for almost 20 years. We're going to be at the Lawrence Elks Club this year. This is our new home. In fact, I might even join the Elks because they've been so good to us. I put out the call last week that we had chosen our first 2 kids. We posted their bios, and the minute I did, people started donating right away, which I was not expecting, because usually people don't start giving until we've named all of our kids. So this year we get 7 kids. We've named 5 of the 7. But as soon as I posted the first 2, people started donating. So I start posting online, and I've had a few people ask me, why do you clutter my news feed with every single person who donates? Why do you have to overdo everything, Tom? Why do you post every donation and keep a running total on Facebook? Do you think people really care? Yes, they do. And I'll tell you why we do that. Because you have people like Sharon Burchell who goes on Facebook and say, the money that you donate to his bash, the money he raises for scholarships doesn't go to the kids. They don't say that during bash time because people know if they donate $1, we thank them online, we add the $1 to the total. The kids' parents can keep a running total, so the kids' parents know how much they're getting along the way, and the people donating know that that $1 went where it was supposed to go. It's total transparency. And that's why I do that, because I have haters out there who like to lie, but they never do it during bash time. Because if they do it during bash time, everyone will know they're lying. They do it like in July, when no one's thinking about the bash, when nobody can see for themselves where the money's going. And we want to make sure that every $1 that comes in fact, if you donate $100 to my bash, is that really 36? I'm sorry. If you donate $100, if today you Venmo me $100 and say, I want this to go to the Lawrence High School Junior ROTC kid. You Venmo me $100, I only get 97 because Venmo takes 3%. We use door money to make up for that. So think about the math if you've got a calculator. Last year we raised $58,000. 3% is $1,740, somewhere around there. So $1,700 right out of the gate came out of our pocket. Came out of door money, raffle money, whatever else we were doing in the room. And that's why we do it. We want to make sure, and I've had people who hate my guts who will call me and say, as long as I know the money's not going to you, Tom, I'll donate $500 to this kid or that kid. And if you want to make the check out to the kid, make the check out to the kid. I'm perfectly happy to do that. If it's Lawrence High School, you make it out to the Lawrence High Alumni Association. We partner with them so you can get a tax break if you want to donate to him. And if you want to donate to the Whittier kid or you want to donate to the Haverhill High School kid, we've partnered up with 411 Cares, which is a nonprofit in Haverhill. You write your check to them, you get a tax break. They write the check to the kid's school. We never even touch it. And that's why I believe we've been able to raise money, because when you give money to the Haiti Relief Fund or the Japan Earthquake Fund or the Los Angeles Fire Fund, for every $100 that you donate, maybe 30 cents goes where it's supposed to go. If you donate to certain other nonprofits like I can never remember the name of that organization, but if you donate to certain other organizations that claim to be nonprofits, the vast majority of what you donate does not go to where it's supposed to go. And that's why we do it the way that we do it. And I believe that's why people have the confidence to do what they're doing. Let's pull up this year's. So we've got, I don't have it. I can't see it because you've got it, but maybe if I pull it up here, maybe? Oh, for the love of God. All right, here we go. Is this it? Of course not. Why would it be? Why would it be easy? Why would I be prepared for crying out loud? We've got 10,000. That has changed. But we've got about $10,000 that we've raised in the last week. That's pretty damn good. I remember by the time we got to our 14th anniversary, our total for the year, for the entire bash, was about $10,000. And again, we thought we were changing the world. We've already raised $10,000 in the first week, and the bash isn't until March 28th. It's the last Friday in March. So we've got all of March, all of February, and I think one more day left in January. I want to encourage you guys to donate if you can. If you don't like me, that's fine. Write the check out to the kid's name. Write the check out if it's a Lawrence kid. Write it to the Lawrence High alumni. If it's a Haverhill kid, write it out to 411 Cares. Or message me and I'll tell you who you can write it out to. We've got one kid who has already picked the college. You could write the check out directly to the college if you want. I have no interest in taking one penny of any of this money. Because we didn't do this so that I could make money or the Valley Patriot could make money. We did this so that we could help. Now, we have one more thing before we go. You didn't want to come up, huh?
Well, I have to run your board. So.
All right, okay. All right.
It's not about wanting to. You can't do two things at once. You just tell them from there.
So we have sad news as we wrap up the show. We are losing Chrissy. Chrissy is moving on to bigger and I'm certain better things than hanging out with me for an hour a week, right?
Yes, definitely. No.
So tell us what it is you're doing, why you're leaving us. You know that the Hood Boogers will be running around making up some kind of story, so make sure that, make sure you tell people what the truth is, so at least we'll have something to say.
Sure.
Because you came to me last week or 2 weeks ago and you said, yeah, I think I'm giving my notice and I want to move on to...
Well, I didn't say I think. I definitely gave it. I can tell it if you like.
Okay, yeah, you tell it.
Yeah, I'm leaving the studio.
What do I do? What do I know?
Who knows?
You're leaving...
The studio, yes.
You're leaving Studio 21.
Yes, I'm leaving the studio to...
So you're not quitting on me, you're quitting on them.
I'm not quitting on anybody. I don't quit anything.
Okay,
I'm not a quitter in life, my friend. I move on. I'm moving onwards and upwards. Music and entertaining is my career, so that's where we're going. I haven't got time left. Transitioning, all those things. So you can still catch me on, we got Wednesday nights at Music Bingo at the Roma in Haverhill. We got Thursday nights Music Bingo at Sadie's Bar and Grill here in Salem. They got Friday night Music Bingo over at Boza in Haverhill.
Boza?
Yeah, Bosa, Boza.
Okay.
The Sky Bar there.
Okay.
It's a bit cold to go outside, but the inside part is awesome.
It's a sky bar, like you can see the skyline of the city?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
In Haverhill.
where is that?
That one's in Haverhill.
Yeah, but where in Haverhill?
It's called Boza,
Downtown?
Bosa. Look it up, yeah.
I'll look it up, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I just get called to do all these things.
I
These
gotcha.
people are so lovely, and they like having me, and we do lots of entertaining and all the bands and things as well.
And you're
Tumbletoads.
in a couple of bands?
Multiple bands, but yeah, the main ones, Tumbletoads, the Bellas, and Reckless Luna. So we're all doing lots of stuff, and lots of stuff coming into the new year. It's very exciting.
Have you played with the off-ramps?
Not as of yet.
Okay, all right, because they play in Haverhill all the time.
Nice.
And that's Laurie Ganji, who's a friend of the Valley Patriot. Her husband got one of our Police Officer of the Year awards at the Bash probably about 5 or 6 years ago, Officer Cooper in Haverhill.
Nice.
So I'm very sad that you're going.
It's been what? How long have we been together now? A few years.
At least
thank you for
3
everything.
years.
Thank you for
And I
having
feel so
me.
bad. I really tried hard to get you a present on my way here.
Yeah.
But my health is not as good as it should be at the moment, and I'm still having a hard time getting around. For some reason, nobody's taking that seriously. Even my doctor, I can't get him to take it serious. But
It's that time of the year too, which everything. Not that things aren't things, but everything seems a little worse
Right.
this time of year. I think we're all coming into that
So
that last stretch, that February stretch. Things
Right.
aren't as bad as you think, folks. Take about 20% off that. I tell you. I was speaking personally as well.
Yeah.
Whatever's going wrong right now, take about 20% off that for winter, and
So Sadie's Bar and Grill on Thursday nights
yeah.
and Friday nights.
No,
No.
Friday nights, just Thursday. Every
Just
Thursday
Thursday
night,
night.
Music Bingo, Sadie's Bar and Grill.
And then Friday night you're
Nope.
nowhere. And then Saturday night you're in Boza.
No.
No, I got all that wrong.
Yeah, completely wrong. You're good at this. He's a journalist, folks. Keep watching and listening to his show. Without me, he'll have all the facts straight for you. Wednesday night Music Bingo at Roma in Haverhill.
Okay.
Thursday night Music Bingo, Sadie's Bar and Grill, Salem. And we're only doing one more night at Boza, which is this coming Friday. And then I think someone else is taking over there because we're busy doing live music with the bands. Tumbletoads. Check us out. Tumbletoads, like falling frogs, on Facebook.
Falling Frogs, that would have been a cool name.
Well, we're Tumbletoads, all right?
okay,
That's
fair
what we
enough,
are. But yeah, follow us on Facebook.
I
and all those
literally
fun
got
things.
everything
We'd
wrong
love the
during that
support.
entire conversation.
Yeah, we're a good, American. Well, I'm Australian, but whatever. The rest of them are American rock group. So yeah, check it out.
I tried to get your Australian accent on Siri.
Yeah.
And the
It'd just be lots of swearing.
What?
Turn left here. What'd you miss that one for, you dickhead? That's all Australian would be. Ah, shit! You missed your turn off. Go again.
I did. So it's
been fun.
I want to say that I appreciate your professionalism. You've done you've done a great job as
Thank you.
I started radio in 1999. I have had a ton of producers over the years in radio and since I started the podcast here 7 years ago in December. So we're 7 years and 2 months into this podcast here. And I've had at least 4 or 5 producers, maybe 6 producers here. And not to say anything about my other producers, because most of them were really good. Mr. Jonathan was fantastic. And when I found out I was losing Mr. Jonathan, I was really depressed about it because he was probably one of my best producers ever of any show that
the knowledge
I've
of
done.
News and local politics and stuff like that. Like you would have just, what a good
and
producer.
so when Dave
That's not
came
my
to
forte,
me,
folks.
when Dave came to me and he said, I've got a new producer for you, but it's a woman. And do you remember our first show? I walked in and I took one look at you. Remember what I said?
I can't remember.
I said, this is not going to work.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I said, this is not going to work. There's
That's
no
right.
way I can
You're
focus on
gonna be
doing a
far too
show
distracted.
with a hot Australian girl that wears boots like that with pink hair sitting to my right. There's literally no way you're going to get me to focus on this show.
He makes it sound like I'm wearing like high heel boots, folks. They're like combat boots. They're more for kicking butt than.
Yeah, those are not
They're
combat
not fancy.
boots.
Well, whatever.
Those are almost up to the knee boots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember your first day I came in and I was like, there's just no way this is going to work. And boy, did we gel right away. Like, I almost didn't want it to work because I wanted a guy producer. Yeah. I didn't want to be distracted because I'm single and I look at a woman and it's going to, we're wired that way. It fries your brain, right?
Yeah, that's okay. You quickly learn what Australian means. I'm no bullshit. We realized we were going to get along just fine.
We did, like, from the very first edition, from the very first show, we got along very well. So I want to thank you for your professionalism. I want to thank you for all of the heartache that I put you through.
You're welcome.
And I know that you were, when I was in the hospital and things weren't looking good, I know that you were very much in contact with Nancy and Dave and Joe. And I know that you felt it because I saw I saw it in your face the day that I came back.
Just a job.
So I appreciate you as a human being. And my intern girl is going to be taking over for you.
She'll be the best producer you ever had.
And she already knows the equipment, which is great. So I want to say thank you to you for everything. And you have to let me take you out to lunch or dinner someday next week once the paper's out. The paper comes out Tuesday, and then after that, I'll be free, and you have to let me take. But it can't be one of those things where we say we're going to do it and then not do it. And then 10 years from now, we go, hey, how come we never did that?
No, I'll let you take me out. I'll give you an interview about tumbletoads to put in the paper.
I would love to do that. I would love to do a story about tumbletoads for the paper. Yeah. And the best thing about that is everything that goes in the paper, at the end of the month, we take those stories, we put them all online so you can share it and you can use it to promote your band. So
we should have a live music section in the paper.
Maybe we will. Maybe I'll put you in charge of that.
Promo like new live music in the area. That'd be awesome. Well, not just new, but all Anyway.
All right, very good.
Oh, look how far over we are. We should probably get going.
All right. Okay. I also want to thank Dave Garofalo. Since I'm thanking you, I want to thank Dave Garofalo, who has been tremendous, helping us get this podcast going and giving us you and sticking with us through me being in the hospital and sticking with us through the boycotts. We had a couple people.
Yeah, we've had a couple of those.
The whole Methuen stuff that happened. And I know Chuck Saber came in one day and he's like, I spend hundreds of dollars here, and if you don't get rid of Duggan, I'm never coming back here again. And he hasn't, by the way. Dave took the L. He took the loss on that, but he defended my free speech right, so I appreciate that. And even when, like, Debo came in and he's showing them, like, legal documents and trying to get them to take me off the air, which is actionable. We will be in court on that at some point. But even when, like, Debo came in and, it could not have been easy for Dave to look at all the stuff that was going on with me being arrested and all that other stuff and the trial and everything. And thank God it all worked out and I was found not guilty. But it could not have been easy for him branding a cigar shop, having all of that going on and reflecting on him at the time. So I definitely appreciate Dave Garofalo. He has been by far the best owner that I have ever worked for. When I left radio at WCAP, I said I would never do radio again because the owners are nightmares to work with, not just there, but everywhere. There, CCM, TTT, everywhere I've been, we had one thing that we asked for before we went on the air. Right? We could talk about splitting revenue, ads, and all that stuff, but whenever I go on the air, whenever we push that microphone button and it goes live, nobody tells me what I can say and what I can't say. And every radio station I've ever worked for has broken that agreement and come in during my show or after my show and said, I don't want you talking about so-and-so. I don't want you talking about this topic or that topic. And that's why I left radio. I said I would never go back, but John Bergeron showed up at my office 7 years ago and said, this guy Dave Garofalo started a podcast studio. This would be perfect for you. And I said, not interested. And he said, well, I already set up an appointment with you. Can you always go down and talk to the guy? So I came in. I sat with Dave. Dave said, I give you my word. I will never tell you what you can and can't say. And I will never take you off the air because you said something I don't like or people called me and gave me a hard time about it. And he has kept his word. The only guy in my 30-something years doing a show who's ever kept his word to me. So I want to say thank you to Dave. Let's roll up Mel. We'll thank our sponsors. I'm taking next week off, and then the following week we're going to start with our new producer, intern girl, Carlota Castillo. Sí, señor. Would you like to eat the big mouse for dinner, Mr. Pussycat? I always feel like I'm talking to Speedy Gonzalez when I'm talking to her. She's got like that accent. I'm glad she's laughing. Let's thank our sponsors. Bonfire Wellness Center in North Andover. They're right by Maggie's Ice Cream. Let's see what else we got. 4-Star Lighting, Stadium Chiropractic, W3ON, Enterprise Bank, Chris's Barbershop, Prime Insurance, the Doug Mercurio Law Office, Harrison's Roast Beef, Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors, AFC Urgent Care, Clear Path for Veterans New England, Tomo at Shaken Seafood, EIS Investigation and Gun Training, Marson and Son Construction, the Zany Pesci Law Office, and Century 21 McLennan Real Estate. Thank you, Dave Garofalo. Thank you, Chrissy. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.